Hello, boys and girls. Clint Searcy from Searcy String Works. And if you're wondering why there haven't been any pickup videos for the last year or so, it's because, well, the shop and the house were both pretty trashed in the May 2010 floods that hit Nashville. We've been doing a lot of rebuild work since then, and we're almost done, but we still got a lot of ground to cover. But to be honest with you, I was getting a little tired of doing a bunch of housework, so when Hendersonville Guitar Repair called me up and asked me if I could rebuild a couple of 1960s Zippo pickups for them for a value leader guitar, I thought, you know what, I need to do a rewind, and I need to film it so I can show it to you. This is how it went.
And this is what they look like. This is the pick guard, controls, and the covers all riveted together. These units were quite ingenious. It allowed Kay to do one simple route and then bolt all this to the front of the guitar without a lot of fancy routing and cavity making for pickups. As you can see, it looks like these pickups are riveted together, and that has led to a lot of these pickups being thrown away because people drill those rivets out and then the whole pickup just kind of falls apart in their hand and they just chuck it. That's because they're doing it wrong. I'm going to show you how to do it right. The way you get these pickups apart is by heating them. If you heat the top of this cover just a little bit, pickup will actually fall out of the cover. I'm using a plastics welder on this one. The pickups were held into the covers with this really thick natural beeswax, and that's all that holds them in. The tops of the bobbins are kind of, I think they're like a polyvinyl plastic, so they're really flexible. It does make these things just a little bit tricky to do a rewind on because the flange wants to warp when you're trying to wind it. So you've got to hold it still. I do this with all the pickups that I get in for rewinds and rebuilds. Old pickups, I like to get out my Gauss meter and check the magnetic power to see just what kind of strength they have. The coils on these pickups end up being right around 6K, which is comparable to a Stratocaster, but they're decidedly weaker in output than a Stratocaster, and it's because the magnets, as you can see, are very weak. They've got half the output of a Stratocaster. Now, before I do a bunch of rewinding, I want to try to see if I can salvage the coils that are already on the pickup. So I have to take this 600 grit sandpaper and sand the insulation off of the two leads of the magnet wire. That's the start lead and then the end lead. And sometimes on Strat coils, this is pretty common for just the end of the coil to break off, and you can unwind it one turn and solder it back on, and you can fix the pickup without having to do a complete rewind. I have to say, with these K pickups, I've never had this work, but I still try it anyway. I always want to try to salvage it if I can. If you could see the meter that I'm using here, you'd see that it reads open coil. It's infinite ohms, which means it's a dead coil. It has to be rewound. So the first thing we want to do is get the tape off of it. It's got a little bit of masking tape holding the coil together. Then I take a screwdriver after I've cut the coil wires a little bit. Just start cleaning the coil off. The bottom plate, like I said, the top flange on this is, I think it's a polyvinyl, it's some kind of plastic. The bottom is steel, actually. Once all the wires cleaned off of the bobbin, we can go ahead and start the rewind. I'm being very careful of two things here. I want to position it so that the flange doesn't warp while I'm trying to spin it. And I want to be sure that I'm turning it in the direction that it was originally turned in. This pickup was wound clockwise, so I want to make sure that my wire goes onto the bobbin clockwise. don't always use the tailstock when I'm winding pickups, but for these I do because, like I said, they want to warp. And there it is, all nice and pretty, with a brand new winding on it. That's 43 gauge wire I'm using on this particular coil. It's same kind of wire that's used in a Telecaster bridge pickup. Solder the ends of the winding to the ends of the lead. Get the meter out and make sure all the connections are good and that the winding didn't break while we were winding it. That does happen sometimes. It's rare, but it happens. You can kind of tell I'm not out in the shop. That's because I've had to move the winder into the house. This is an unfinished room in the house that the winder's set up in because the shop's kind of destroyed right now. There's the wax pot. Once we've made sure all our connections are good, send it through the wax pot. Then we put it back in the cover while everything's still hot and add just a little bit more wax to it so it'll hold it in. And there you have it. It's really pretty straightforward. They're really great sounding pickups. If you happen to find one of these old Ks, it's really worth it to pick it up. And I want to thank the guys over at Hendersonville Guitar Repair for sending it my way. And I'm hoping to have the shop back up and running by the end of the year. By the start of 2012, I want to be back up and busy. If you want to know more about how pickups are made, be sure and check out all our other videos. I've got a bunch of videos on here, and I've got several more coming. In the meantime, you can keep track of our progress by checking us out on Facebook. Just enter Searcy String Works into the little search thing on Facebook, and we'll pop right up. I've been posting a lot of pictures there of a lot of the pickups I've rewound and some of the custom pickups that I've built. And I've been writing a few articles on there about just pickup information in general. So check it out. Like us. Really like us. That's about it for now. Till next time, this is Clint Searcy saying keep on walking holding this thing.